Oh, dear Russia and America. Russia, you guys have people against your own who are with ours against our own using the same crime methods, like with psychology. Now, that's the phenomenon of being in a database that's you're not supposed to speak about medical information. That's a truth. But they're using that knowing that because there's racketeering there. Originally and still, that's where they keep the branches, all private, tied to them, the campuses of each age, states and areas criminally foreign influence, qualities of fact, cheap in nature, styles of liars pretending other. They are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated sequence racketeering roles with evidence reception, pretending they don't realize the sequence shifts and pretending we can't use that to demonstrate their, because that's all evidence racketeering. They're valuing vertical and horizontal database racketeering. A whole bunch of people tied to mayors, retired and standing, a former mayor Gold. People all along the South Steen Highway from um, Rocky Hill, you know, worse, all the way into Hartford, heart of Hartford, all the way along Walker Hill Road, all the way along the Berlin Turnpike. And then that's where, no, seeing of this Weathersfield's where George Washington had to come and leave slavery because he didn't have, excuse me, because he was a fact cheaping nature slave, because he didn't have free speech to chop down the fake branches of government. But he did only to an extent. And through James Madison, which we're where and how this counts too, because this is tied to James Madison's plan came first and with him for the Republic. But this is where and how James Madison, George Washington, and each of our founders, distinctly and non-distinctly, didn't have free speech that the other at the same time had speech forced. And per methods doing damage control. Everyone's reacting to all kinds of natures of juxtaposed no motivations, natures, needs, interests with an overall racketeering method that hasn't been proven only because we don't have free speech. Only because we don't have mandated law, they're using tricks with fact cheating nature. Like, for example, the recorded, confessed, and demonstrated worse than war crimes uses of this Mueller testimony theater. With this, there's a whole bunch of nations with psychology, with their justice departments, with racketeering, with a whole bunch of people tied to Walter's family, with the Kerr family, also with election spots. This is election racketeering. This is uses of the identity of the ground. Long-standing people associated with what they call the intelligence community, which are also roles with an abridged constitution as jobs relationship to what they call knowledge, intelligence, originally still criminally foreign influence, delusions, raw. These are people involved, criminal uses of the departments, each of the departments of the campuses of each age, connected, worse than criminally foreign influence. Each modern nation is in a trap, self valuing roles with the perfect world worse than forsaken, which is the perfect world's identity and its values overall, like the Garden of Eden. This is per science, and where the where the footnote where the Old Testament makes a distinction, but about what is it is about being about science and the rest of the Old Testament. Excuse me. We have this worse than obfuscated, and then we have a breaching screen shielded. Just religion. Each of the surface values of the Constitution. Now, see, they were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated overtly, pretending offensively, criminally, knowing they are pretending that they are against people trying to control fact treatments so they can make them up, so they can pretend they didn't realize things. That these are people involved with racketeering my entire life against me. tied to this Gold family. I had nothing to do with them. Whatever she faked conversations with me. These are also people who are involved with racketeering with a Joshua Julian and other people with identity thefts with them and attaching little kids to fake locations with courts, with prosecutors. These are people that don't let anyone talk. And when they try to make you say A or B, they know that doing that criminally because they were already involved criminally with the area because they were already standing live progressions since before our founders' births. Who our founders didn't have free speech. They left us the points of correlation for this. But we don't have free speech. We have them forced glorified. We have it insulated like a nervous system. These are motivations, nature's needs, interest to hurt people to to help them out. I mean, for other, in other words, for motivation have nothing to do with what they're doing that for. They're just perpetuating states and areas, roles, self-valuing, how their criminally foreign influence rolls with what keeps, only let realized, capable of being negative value nature progressions, acts in natures to all areas, acts like predicate acts. I'm not a lawyer. Lawyers are also recorded and involved with this against Trinity is both physical sexes and the value of that to nature that is a trinity. It's not a polarity nature alone. It's a polarity nature alone if it's a negative value nature as temporary positive because one identity of positive that will only stay positive onto itself, and that's Earth's simultaneously distinct and non-distinction distinct relationship to the rest of spaces, which is its simultaneously distinct and non-distinct relationship to itself, which looks the same, making more of itself, through which doesn't, only because it's attached different. Earth is closer to the inherent nature of volume of this completely bonded nature of five semi natures, simultaneously three semi natures. And no, that's semi nature, perfect semi nature, which is individually complete nature. And see now, even 10 is still it's a complete nature, but it's still semi nature connected to what is generating more and more forever nature through infinity nature is more and more. It never goes negative, but from our position, and that's only in demonstration of a system we're not allowed to discern. We have this worse than obfuscated, since because this is again a method that kept and keeps identities of each branch of government of all private tied to them raised needed to hide lie progressions tied to what is using a theater method and like for example little paths next to parks and stuff like that, and they know where they time things. So they're getting over on the same people they're helping, but they're getting over on. But in other words, they want them to say, "Oh, it's about jobs." Like these people are animals originally, and still, the Justice Department every day identities of the law. Their negative value nature, their criminal insidious nature. Now, I'm an expert on the nature of English grammar, which is nature is about this nature, the nature, the identity of a verb, a main verb changes. It's no longer a predicate unless it's a main verb. Then it could be a participle nature. Could be you put an ing in a verb. It's no longer a main. It's no longer capable of being a main verb. The identity of it, but it doesn't change. And it's not that is positive or negative. It's its relationship to the whole, not just the whole sentence. with this identity that is only filling and only gaining as a nature of volume, as each identity is more forever nature. Heaven and hell demonstrably came from this, which English was revealed to teach. For example, with the top of the Z, as a complete nature of relationship to itself that is also positive here as temporary slash lasting positive, as its relationship to itself, which will only allow that to increase or force it away, Leith of Hadith, which therefore would be force, space, nature, transfer, nature being identity, where it needs to keep positive and negative positive to itself. Now, see, this comes to logic, where we have an order to judgment proper. We have experts on it with physical delusions. So they're valuing, they're also valuing having had and their roles, forging names, switching names, attaching little kids through their entire lives to fake locations, fake communications with others. And that's on off campuses sustained racketeering roles and uses of what sustain states and areas, all database relationships, private and other, involved with racketeering. Perfect world forsaken, not by accident, exploited. And that's, in other words, they have all the people, in other words, since before the Trade Center attack, there's a straight line of people playing fact, cheat, and nature racketeering. And they're being coached to it from off the campuses, though. So forgiveness is about this too, because the branches of government are pretending passions, emotions, dishonestly, offensively, like pretending to be against people trying to control their questions. Because what is actually recorded is they are already involved with my new and past neighbors, for example. They don't even know. In other words, then when they want to have people out of sequence, they're sustaining background conversations, which are in conjunction with their roles with wire crime methods, wire crime acts, mail crime methods, mail crime acts that also demonstrate their racketeering roles. Former director of the FBI with his federal criminal co-defendants, and with the racketeering with people that were involved with a whole bunch of people from my town associated with CCSU who were involved with faking recorded things and uses of Facebook for evidence racketeering, interbranch Justice Department, on off CCSU, on off other campuses connected to each age. They were confessions I didn't understand when I was in grammar school. I understood they were connected to congressional confessions, but then which were demonstrated more and more. So, but this is also this is also tied to a theater they have each nature of city in that was forced with the fact, cheating nature, slavery of our founders, which is inseparable from the human fact, cheating nature, slavery of everyone, which is about a trinity, which is why we are individually grouped in species. It's not even only the extent of it is debatable, but we have the sciences offensively debating with passions and emotions dishonestly, because at the same time they're offensively preventing anyone with integrity from having free speech, and they're demonstrating non-integrity. They're using confessions about originally and still interbranch, all private tied to them, military, criminally foreign influence roles with Russians, with uses of the intersciences, natures and industries, like with psychology, and so with opinion nature. So, in other words, styles of liars, criminally foreign influence roles as tools, as weapons, as worse, uses of Weathersfield town offices, with each age of fact cheating nature, how used. Further recorded and confessed businesses on and off the Southstein Middle School, involved with a Dr. Graham woman, involved with racketeering with child sex offenders, associated with houses in my area with them racketeering. This is a doctor of psychology. They're also where she's involved with a Phil Clow and his family, and prosecutors. and a whole bunch of people tied to him involved with like sequence shifts, evidence racketeering roles with uses of the ground, uses of database racketeering roles with people that were in my classes. I hung around them, and people that weren't at all, that were both together, criminally pretending other. And these aren't things I forget. These are people that this is a racketeering method recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. And it started tied to the O'Brien family and to a former Mayor Gold and a whole bunch of people. Then he gets all their neighbors and stuff like that. And like one of the Tim O'Brien used to walk around everywhere, communicate with everyone, and like, he's like an infection. You see what I'm saying? Like criminally foreign influence, because these are further involved with the principal sex offenders campus and with houses next to that involved with Russian families. And now that we have them forging names and switching names, where they're playing games like that with this Leahy family, with a whole bunch of people tied to them with this, with racketeering with West Farms Mall, with the shared policing of like near banks on the South Street Highway, places near on off highways like Town Line Drive, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated the business are involved with a whole bunch of people tied to a Dillon family too, with my new and past neighbors tied to their roles with racketeering with the people, a whole bunch of people from CCSU from my town I never had anything to do with. The only contacts that were other are them recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. They use those for their own racketeering roles. Their own, in other words, they're forging names, switching names into branch, preventing people counters to identity thefts. A whole bunch of people on off Fox Connecticut News with two Mendez police involved forging names, switching names, pretending things recorded as police intercities on off Fox Connecticut News, and with people on a whole bunch of people on off Two Rod Highway recorded involved racketeering with them and with the main family, with these people racketeering with a whole bunch of people tied to it as co-defendants of former director of the FBI. But there's an Ian recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by someone that is him or pretending to be him on Twitter. Involved also because they have New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page is involved with racketeering with a whole bunch of people with the name KNER and with a Kerr family recorded, confessed through time, involved with the child sex offenders already recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with racketeering further though, with houses in my area in Asdan. And they make fake Facebook pages. And if you try to tell on them, because these are interbranch family members using their need to hide live progressions. These are prosecutors needing to hide or they already use their kids criminally. These are military that already use their military family members criminally for identity thefts, for evidence racketeering, where they pretend things recorded, where they act things to imply that there was a locations before that. A whole bunch of sequence shifts and live progressions roles that go back to the former Mayor Gold and into a O'Brien family. Recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involve other people. They affected confessions out of nowhere from people I don't even know. Now you just go through life. So these are also people that are using that and how little kids are not gonna, you're gonna they want us to follow positive, but they're preventing this. And then they're preventing like someone yells or something like that because they have people that were in a class like a Janito Mendez was in a class with my sister when she was a kid. There are people involved with the sexual abuses of girls, and he's involved with fake conversations with me and with his brother Eric Mendez, involved with database racketeering, drug racketeering when they were kids, involved with racketeering with for a whole bunch of people tied to it as the family members of and the persons as co-defendants of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and involved also a whole bunch of racketeering on Farmington Avenue, Asylum Avenue, that they're also hiding. Racketeering roles, uses of like even the counters to it with Narcan and stuff, because they're using that to maintain self-value all the EMS recorded involved with racketeering with the child offenders. Because we have a whole bunch of natures of doctors forging names, switching names, as experts of logics who are delusions wrought, recorded. Identity theft, racketeering. These are people that pretended me and had a Rick Cian Faglione pretend that I was in locations tied to them that never were when I was a kid. After he graduated high school, he confessed, recorded, could demonstrate. A whole bunch of other people from my town are involved with state police and FBI and CIA families racketeering. A Scalora family also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering uses of fake sides counters to Al Qaeda and those things as them, involved with like deans and shared policing by other nations and roles with criminal justice departments recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Also involved with like CCSU's recorded, confessed, and demonstrated roles with intercity police forms from off their campuses and on off them sustained military police, foreign and domestic, involved with the medical families and interbranch women, even women judges involved with child offenders. Now they use crime methods attaching me and other people to fake locations, fake words, fake behavior. They attach me to fake yelling. They lie, but after this is scientific value. If I yell in a video, they have to lie about it. In other words, this is what I'm trying to show you. They already lied. They already used Facebook for racketeering with uses of Wethersfield town offices, people with Wethersfield Pizza, a whole bunch of people tied to them involved with racketeering intercities, like North End of Hartford, as the ones involved racketeering all along Farmington Avenue, Sound Street, involved racketeering with WFSB, stole me to fake locations, fake ties to and natures of ties to complete strangers and others involved with racketeering with them, like a John Mayan and like a Joshua Julian, involved with overt criminal enterprises, verbal racketeering of mail crimes, wire crime rolls, identity thefts, with houses in my area involved racketeering with child sex offenders and people with racketeering with them with the transition from ACA to RICA and with retired and standing interbranch and private tied to them. These are prison cliques. These are foreign and domestic military, Kuwaiti military, deans, sexual circles, because they're keeping all victim predators, and then they're keeping everyone like that. So, oh, I hate them. Well, you know what I mean. They're using confessions from because they're using sustained. They're not following mandated law. They're not letting counters. I shouldn't have to. That guy, the guy, the former mayor. There are other former and standing mayors associated with this former mayor Gold, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering with streets on and off, and tied to Two Rod Highway, Hangdog Lane, Burlington Turnpike. You know, there's a whole bunch of people tied to a Fred Grisey involved with racketeering here with identity theft, fake conversations with me, confessions and stuff like that, interbranch family members with the golf course and with this Cedar Hill Cemetery note where JBP Morgan is buried, where he had to help our nation survive to even be a country to fight the World War One, but it was also with them still entrenched here. He had to leave slavery. He had to leave way worse than that. How many nations were already involved with psychology sick beasts? Campus Marcius rises in the east. Some bring their name. Called Lost and Found. Oh, God. Wow. So, in other words, at the end of the World Turnpike before the heart of Hartford, and then on Maple Avenue and off of it, this Mayana family also racketeering with a whole bunch of people with New Britain Superior Court through time, retired and standing, involved with child trafficking by attaching everyone to fake locations, fake ties to others. They use crime methods where they consciously put fake sides of differences between kids because so they involve boys and girls with sequence racketeering self-value because how they're preventing people from immediate reliefs for the racketeering uses of their kids. They know that's recorded because I never had a conversation with Brian Silver in my life. And the only context I know him in was recorded, confessed, and demonstrated the people tied to him, or recorded, confessed, and demonstrated he's involved with racketeering with New Britain Superior Court. A whole bunch of people tied to it, the Morrow family. I never saw him in the presence of either. I didn't hang around with, the only context I know them and they had to lie about. They set that up to trick me to be in a location of that person before. In other words, because he's involved with my neighbors were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with, again, Justice Department, Washington D.C., like all these things, manifest Trade Center, where they have roles with people on off the state prison offices, on off the state prison judicial branch offices, all along that route through Rocky Hill, all tied to racketeering uses of houses in my street and area, as the ones involved with vertical and horizontal database racketeering at each of the campuses I went to. People don't realize they're putting everyone to fake locations, fake words, fake behavior categorically because they're needing to hide their live aggressions tied to cases, criminal uses of each nature of court, of the state judicial branch officers, as people involved with these racketeering methods of sustained preventing me counters to confessions of roles with such racketeering leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context. And since I was a kid, the same people too. And so that makes it sound like I'm tied to them and was in context where they never were. They're putting fake things in databases. They have whole crime methods. They maintain self-value this way. Humanity prayer. They're raised to be they're involved with overt criminal enterprises and with the stewards of the witness protection program, also involved with the racketeering acts and methods recorded the branches of government individually grouped and together. Now these are also people recorded, confessed with a pattern of faking conversations with me on Facebook tied to it, and faked conversations about CIA, and then they pretend that they were copying me, which I waited before I responded because I saw a pattern of it. And then there's a doctor, Brendan Leahy. He's got a son. I guess he's a doctor too. They're involved with a whole bunch of medical racketeering, DACA, foreign and domestic nurses, clicks, and stuff like that. All victims, but all victim predators. They want to make an opinion about someone they don't even know. They're forging names, switching names, all kind of scripts racketeering with prescriptions, all kinds of medical racketeering with research, using that to keep that criminally foreign influence, keep styles of liars, to keep the resources parted from what is actual medicine, keep actual medicine entertained. Their sensibilities in relationship to what shouldn't be standing next to them in the first place, which is worse than gross criminal incompetence with what is logic's actual words needed, told, and said, and true, with sequence true. We have sequence racketeering, the preventing counters to it. And then so they're forging names and switching names. And the whole time, in other words, they bring up hypotheticals that show physical delusions that they act on using, especially if you sustain uses, even if, in other words, of courts and of jails, clicks, especially when those courts are involved with racketeering with CCSU. Again, these are people training prison leaderships. Their families are involved with racketeering victims of sexual circles because they have the way people interact, criminally foreign influence. In other words, they have the sensibilities. People either you're going to self-value roles with the perfect world forsaken. You're indifference to sick state government, state scenarios, criminally foreign influence, forcing the leaders to stay native roles. Sick. Everyone wants to go, oh, blasting people. The garden is a scientific value. Evolution is an identity of relationship that one identity of value of progression has to itself that revealed us. No, it's the identity of relationship to the ground that is native pure. And they don't have time to keep. We just stole her campus from Marcius. They need it back. For us, we need it back in native pure. No matter if we're Native American or not. I'm not Native American. Maybe, who knows? But I mean, I'll tell you something else too. Ancestry.com. These are people involved with racketeering with the transition from Alca to Rico, also with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering uses of each nature of campus, like UConn, with psychology. They were involved with child sex offenders, child human trafficking with the only sick natures of counters to such as people involved with human fact cheating nature, racketeering originally and still. Also worse than criminally incompetent delusions wrought with all their color treatments. Their answers to why they can't afford anything individually grouped and together actually. It's only because they can't afford free speech. That presents reliefs way better than reparations and immediate. See, now we're not talking about what is debatable. This is true, forsaken. But not because of color, because of the racketeering method. They use color and everyone fake sides, forcing that entertained. Forcing those styles of fact cheaping nature sensibilities entertained. Passion emotions, only quality fact cheaping nature sick and hurting. Who needs to demonstrate that they're the only ones with integrity? Offensively, they prevent this nature of integrity from being realized per how the identity of the science is individually grouped together are victim predators. Sorry if you want to make an opinion. Let's keep it on what is true always. They use truth and facts as lies with the sequence racketeering. Pretending to believe things, pretending they tell you to entertain a hypothetical, and then they make things up and charge you with harassment because so they could force a proven anyway child sex offender with a campus. Further involved with more then and now. This is tied to them with racketeering with Russian families, with the Slahy family, a whole bunch of doctors, foreign and domestic, involved racketeering with them, and with the Dr. Graham. Physical delusions wrought. All these people racketeering roles and uses of house in my area. And with the detective Dylan, who's involved with forging names, switching names. He made a kid write an affidavit when he was a kid about how, oh, I didn't say that. Oh, I had to keep telling him I didn't say that. They communicate other than, oh, but that Chris Walters is recorded, confessed, and demonstrated he's involved with racketeering on off CCSU with a whole bunch of people with Justice Department, Pentagon, foreign and domestic, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, criminal uses of him and his roles and other people with confessions on Two Route Highway and on off Two Route Highway, also tied to all along Walker Hill Road, involved with racketeering, with evidence reception racketeering, pretending to perceive things, pretending things to record things, pretending they don't realize that things are faked already in databases. Dearly beloved, it says Fred Deaf Bread writes, Ram, dearly beloved, avenge not yourselves, but rather give peace unto wrath. For it is written, the vengeance is mine. I will repay, saith the Lord. See, you're missing the first part. That's all. That's with physical delusion. Like that's all like not nonsense tied to the beginning of the Old Testament. It says right here is the point you have to understand. You see, they're making the Old Testament and they're making the no offense, and in the Quran, they're out of sequence value because they're making everyone's sensibilities as victims. that blame the real causes of it on other things other than themselves. States and areas of modern nations have self-valued, criminally foreign influence zoning laws associated with our founders' torture, our founders' forced language. They didn't have free speech. They were fact human nature slaves.